All right, well, let's look at your traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center for your ride in on this Monday morning. Couple accidents to report. One at I-20 eastbound and Highway 378. Another one at Nazareth and Longs Pond Road. Another one at Highway 21 and I-20. Taylor Road at Millwood. And then final one at Sid Bickley and Highway 76. Today, pretty cold. High of only 51 with a little bit of breeze and a freeze warning overnight with a low of 27 tomorrow. Pretty similar conditions, high of 50, a little bit warmer on Wednesday with a high of 64. That's traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on the Early Game. Nine o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on the game on a Reaction Monday. And thankfully, Jack, nobody's angry, at least not about South Carolina football because, well, South Carolina didn't play this weekend because it was a bye. So happy bye weekend to you. Hopefully it was good. Hopefully you got some relaxation before we lock in for whatever these last three games are going to look like.
Yeah, man. It could have been this Reaction Monday could have been a lot different because of what we'll get into from last night. But
sure,
yeah, man,
there's that.
It's a happy Reaction Monday, and yeah, man, had a good bye week. Went relaxed a bit. It was nice to be in Columbia and not have to worry about going to a press conference here, a press conference there. Did travel a little bit going to baseball on Thursday out in Charleston, which was productive. Really good performance from South Carolina baseball. But then going to Cullowhee, North Carolina over the weekend to check out some Western Carolina versus Mercer top 25 FCS football over the weekend.
And how was that?
Dude, do you want to hear some of the stats from this game?
Yes, please. Let me know. Are there weird stats in this game?
Oh, this is weird. This is like the stuff that college football sicko dreams are made of.
Yes, lay it on me.
So the final score of this game, Mercer won 49-47. Mercer won in the final seconds as Western Carolina missed. It was a pretty chip shot field goal from like the 12-yard line. And I think everyone in the stadium thought the kick was good because everyone's going nuts and all that. Students are pouring onto the field. And then it wasn't good. Someone was like, wait, no, he didn't make the kick. Like you could see like the refs like waving their hands. Like, he didn't make it, and everyone's just like,
Because is everybody's seats on the sideline view?
Yes.
It's so hard to tell what field goals are through and not.
It looked like it was a chip shot field goal, man, and he missed it. But the offensive stats from this game were just nuts. So Western Carolina finished with 599 yards of total offense. Mercer finished with 568. The quarterback stat line from this game is crazy. Tyrone Dickens, the quarterback for Western Carolina, who, if you remember, had the 46 straight completions
That's
a few weeks back. He went 33 of 49 for 551 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 1 interception. It was insane, this game. It was just all offense.
I'm looking up Taron Dickens' stats on the season.
Oh, he's got some good numbers this year.
2,700 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 2 picks. My God.
And it's only in 7 games because keep in mind, Western Carolina didn't have him for the first 3 games of the year.
That's insane.
Which coincidentally, they lost all 3 games. Yeah. So, I mean, if this were a full season, we're looking at something completely different. I'll tell you what, his his vision just to make some throws that he doesn't have he has a really good arm. And, he's not like the greatest quarterback you'll ever see, but like the man can find his spots and hit them with precision. And, I think somebody is going to take notice of this guy and probably snatch him, I would imagine, at the P4 or G6 level. But, man, I mean, just crazy, this game. I mean, it was like it was like stuff I've just never seen before on offense. I'm like, because all year, been watching the South Carolina offense and them struggling to put 10 points on the board. And meanwhile, I see an absolute slugfest for one weekend, and my eyes were just blown away.
Who's their offensive coordinator?
Oh, my gosh.
Do we need to make a call?
Some of the guys at Gamecock Central were making a joke that I need to provide a full scouting report of the Kerwin Bell offense. And I was telling them, like, first drive of the game, scripted, went perfectly. And then Chris asks, how's the non-scripted stuff? And then I sent over the final stats at the end of the game. And it was like discovering fire, like never seeing anything like it before with my own eyes. It was crazy.
I mean, at this point, there's no bad choice. Rylan Wells is his offense. I don't know. Does Kerwin Bell call the plays, though? Might be a situation where he calls the plays, but has an OC.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Either way, that offense is working, so I wouldn't be opposed to taking a look at it.
Oh, how funny. This kid, Rylan Wells. Hold on. This sounds really familiar. Oh, so he went to Fort Mill, actually. That's a crazy connection.
We have connections now.
So he played quarterback at Fort Mill. I want to say, gosh, I think probably a year or two before I got to school at Fort Mill.
Well, Boo, you got the connection, Jack. Make the call.
It says literally originally from TGK, South Carolina, which is a town over from me. So yeah, he went to Fort Mill, if I'm not mistaken. So that's crazy.
I think Beamer needs to make you the lead of the search.
Shoot, I'm telling you, man. I mean, yeah, I knew that name sounded familiar, but yeah, man. I mean, what just an offensive display. And I mean, look, I don't expect South Carolina to let's go down the FCS rabbit hole. But I'll tell you what. I mean, look,
listen,
if they need a quarterback,
if you have the ability,
you can make it work.
You can make it work. Listen, we've seen quarterbacks, coordinators, and coaches come from all. One of the best quarterbacks in college football right now was playing at Ferris State last year.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like Tyrone Dickens, like, and it was funny because it felt so much like South Carolina in like the defense for South Carolina is pretty good. Western's defense was terrible. Secondary was awful. Offensive line for Western Carolina, I felt like a fan during the game screaming like, this whole line sucks. Like it was so bad to watch this offensive line for Western Carolina.
Was it worse than what we see on a typical Saturday?
Dude, it gave me like war flashbacks of watching like Lenore Sellers just getting drilled this season.
So
like,
we won't be going to the portal for any of their O linemen.
No O linemen. Don't even. But for quarterback and offensive coordinator, I don't know, man.
I mean, package deal, maybe.
Package deal. Like, go to Western Carolina and go find yourself a diamond in the rough that no one's going to be looking for.
Listen, at this point, nothing is off the table.
No.
And if at the presser tomorrow, maybe catch Beamer on the side, be like, hey, man, was out this weekend. Rylan Wells, Taryn Dickens. Just think about it.
Just consider it. It was a crazy display of offense, fan.
That's awesome. Well, glad you got to enjoy that. And I don't know, maybe some of the magic of what you took from that game can resonate with this offense next weekend in A&M.
Yes, I would hope so, because after seeing that, it's like you never want to go back to watching poor offense again.
Yeah, you got to see essentially like a Big 12 game from 10 years ago.
Pretty much. Like that. Like it was everything you could have wanted and more as a college football fan, and I appreciate it.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully we get some fun like that on offense over the course of these next couple games. We'll talk plenty about that as well as what happened last night in the Hardwood as we continue on at the Extra Point. But first, it is time for our 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick Me Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9. Plenty of football to get into as the morning goes along, but as Jack mentioned a moment ago, we thought we might actually have to come in here and talk about a tough loss once again early on in the season for South Carolina men's basketball, as they ended up going into overtime with a not great Southern Miss team, but they were able to pull out the victory 83-79. And I was talking to Terry earlier. I said, I think this is going to be one of those kind of seasons where South Carolina's going to have some really, really good highs and some really low lows. And they're going to beat some teams they probably should have no business beating, but probably lose to some teams they have no business losing to. And I think last night was kind of an example of one of those kind of games. Thankfully, they were able to pull it out.
They got a lot of problems. That's evident from last night. But this team can shoot the lights out. When the shots are falling, this team can be great. But when they're not, you kind of see, okay, you're kind of playing with fire a little bit. You might end up costing yourself some games because your defense isn't great at all. You have no paint presence inside because you don't have a Colin Murray Boyles this year. But if you're making those shots, you can win a lot of games. And you have a star in Meechie Johnson, who was – I was watching the second half of that game last night because I was not covering the game last night. I was watching at my girlfriend's place and just seeing the comeback. I mean, they were down by double digits in the second half, Tyler. I'm like, they're not coming back in this game.
Yep.
And then Meechie Johnson just starts chucking up three-pointers from 30, 40-plus feet. And
the parking lot.
Street ball level stuff, and gets that game tied. And all you needed was just to get it to overtime, and they were able to do so. 33 points last night, 9 of 19, 7 of 14 from three-point range. I mean, talk about a guy that just balled out last night.
But this is what we know Meechie Johnson is, right? Where he has the go-off game, where he goes out there, and this was a career high for him, but scores, 20, sometimes around 30 points. But then, the next game, he goes out there and scores 5. You know what I mean? It's it's doing it consistently. That was the problem when he was here the first time. So, okay, you did that against Southern Miss. I don't even remember who they play next. But later on this week, Presbyterian Wednesday, Presbyterian. So go out there and do something similar against Presbyterian and keep it going, where you can you can rely on that every single night. Because, again, when he is at his best, he is one of the best out there. But then he has the off night after that, or has a couple games in a row where things are kind of struggling. So can he be consistent is the biggest question about Meechie Johnson going forward.
Yeah, but when he's on, he's
fun to watch.
He's unguardable. He's unguardable. The good news is they have other guys in this team that can go out there and score, right? So, Mongolian Mike, 17 points last night. Eli Ellis, a very quiet 20-point night for him, and both those guys made 3 pairs of threes. So this is an offense that, there's going to be nights where it's not going to be Meechie's night, and other guys are going to step up. But I think that's the beauty of this team. And the thing I will say, watching that game last night, when they're down by 8, 9 points in the late going, whatever it was in the final 3 minutes there, I think last year's team would have still made a little bit of a comeback, but it would have come up short, right? That's always how it went, or they'd blow a lead and they would never recover.
My favorite moment from last night, because Eli Ellis did have a really good game with 20 points, and he's somebody that's going to be a consistent contributor on this team going forward. But when he fouled the guy at the end of regulation, and Coach Pears lost, he went from losing his mind, where he's stomping his foot and throwing his fist, just kind of putting his hands on him and giving hey man, don't do that type of thing.
But the thing I was going to say was, last night they showed me this is not last year's team. This team still fought all the way back and was able to get the win. Because think about it, man. If they lost this game last night, that's an easy quad 4 loss. Because
just like last year.
Southern Miss was ranked 278 in KenPom. That's almost like starting to dig your own grave right there, and something that I don't think you can necessarily recover from. But they were able to get this to overtime, play well enough, and still it almost looked like they were going to blow it a little bit when that one pass went out of bounds. On the inbound or whatever, that gave Southern Miss a chance still. But, hey, they got the win last night. And it's all really thanks to Michi Johnson, but
Yep.
a really good team performance.
Yeah, win for them, 2-0 to start the season. To no surprise, women's basketball is also 2-0, and what they did to Bowling Green on Friday night might not be legal in some states. That was a just beat down of epic proportions.
It was a murder. It was a murder.
It really was. It felt that way. Yeah, so Bowling Green, they're going to have to go see a therapist or something after that one. But Dawn's crew 2-0. Paris' crew 2-0, and again, they'll be both back in action. Women's taking on Clemson tomorrow night, and then men taking on Presbyterian coming up on a Wednesday. Of course, all that right here on the game. We'll get into some football stuff. What are the goals for Carolina over the course of these next 3 games? Also, plenty of things to react to from over the weekend, as well as it was a wild Saturday in college football. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Reaction Monday here on the game. Tyler Ed here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialists. I tell you about it all the time, but I'll happily remind you once again, you always need to be on the lookout for things around your home that don't seem quite right or just a little bit off. Those things include cracks in your exterior brick, cracks in walls or above windows and door frames, doors or windows that might be sticking, uneven bouncy floors, or cracks over your garage door. If you notice any of these problems with your home, you could have serious foundation issues, and that's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate your foundation issues and get them fixed right so you and your family can live worry-free going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialists. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Howard and Jack Beltry with you on your Reaction Monday here on The Game as we unpack the final bye week for South Carolina before they endure their final 3-game stretch. And, of course, they got to go undefeated. They got to beat A&M. They got to beat Coastal, and they got to beat Clemson. All those tricky in their own way to try and close out the year and get to some kind of bowl game in the month of December. And if you tuned in to watch A&M play Missouri, thinking, okay, well, maybe A&M will be sleeping on this game and they'll get tripped up or they'll look weak. Well, they didn't. They looked like the number 3 team in the country that is now 9-0 on the season as they really took Missouri to the woodshed. Missouri scored a little bit late there to make that score better than it was. They reverse Fetty-Wapped them. It's 38-17, not 17-38.
I was showing that to my girlfriend's friend who we were all with in Cullowhee and after the game. And I'm like, oh, look, 17-38, except it's backwards. So I'm glad we were both on the same page with thinking like that.
Did they get it?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
oh,
all
yeah.
right.
Because we were randomly talking about this whole 6-7 thing and how 17-38 used to be the thing when, like, I'm assuming back when like you were in like college or even late high school.
Yep.
Like
that came out when I was in high school.
So it was around that time. But yes, so it was nice to see the little reverse action there. But dude, I mean, if you don't believe it, if people seriously still don't believe in this A&M team, like, I hate to tell you, this team's really, really freaking good. And yeah, I had my own doubts for a few weeks back, thinking, okay, they're off to a great start, but then the collapse will happen at some point. It could still happen with 3 games left to go, but this team is really, really freaking good, and I think people need to start taking more notice of it.
I found it really interesting. I got a lot of respect for Mike Elko. He's done a really good job out there, but I guess because we joke about the A&M like PTSD, battered Aggie syndrome, whatever you want to call it, where like you'll listen to his press conferences during the week, and he's getting asked so many questions about like historically this, historically that. You know, they always find a way to go 8-4, and he's like, enough. Like, we are better than that. History be damned. We are a team that's destined for the college football playoff. We got a shot at winning the SEC. All these kind of things. Like, he doesn't care about your history. He doesn't care about what's happened in the past. Like, it really seems like A&M has finally turned a new leaf, and they have Carolina, I believe they got Samford, and they got Texas. So, assuming they don't go 0-3 in those games, which I don't think they're going to, like, they're in and likely going to be playing in Atlanta for the SEC championship too.
As long as they win this weekend, I don't want to say they clinch a spot for the SEC championship, but they should be in a great position to do so.
So Texas only has 1 loss in conference play. Now, Texas has Georgia this weekend. So if Texas can beat Georgia, and then just like last year, if both those teams go in, or if Texas goes in with only 1 conference loss and A&M is still undefeated, then Texas would win the tiebreaker.
And Alabama's also interesting, too, because, I mean, they have a tricky slate the rest of the way, too. I mean, they got Oklahoma at home this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They get a random opponent next week, and then it is at Auburn to end the season.
Yes, and that's always tricky.
That's always tricky. So, and I think it's A&M and Alabama for the top 2 seeds in the SEC right now. So.
Yes.
That could be tricky, but...
Yeah, then we go to tiebreakers because if all 3 had 1 loss in conference play, then...
It gets messy.
Yeah, Texas would have the win over A&M, so that put them in. And then I think it'd go to, rankings between Alabama and A&M on who gets in or whatever. And again, this has been such a wacky season. I'm not putting anything outside the realm of possibility right now, but A&M looks really, really good. You're going on the road to them this upcoming weekend. It is a noon kick, so maybe they'll be a little bit sleepy coming out of the gate. But I didn't see, especially with how much they were getting after Matt Zollers, they blitzed him 68% of the time. I guarantee you they're going to do something similar to Lenore Sellers coming up on Saturday. Like, I don't know where the advantages are here for Carolina.
Yeah, this is one of those games where it just feels pretty bleak. There's going to be optimism in that building that South Carolina can go out here and win this game this weekend. Nobody believing in them. That's when they play at their best, right? But I just don't. I can't see a way in which South Carolina plays great this weekend against a team that has shown no signs of slowing down. Now, the play calling situation will be different, so that will probably be the most interesting thing to keep an eye on this weekend is how does South Carolina's offense look now that Mike Shula is no longer calling the plays? Because if this offense is going out here and just looking great, then I think you have a chance to keep this game a little bit competitive. But you really gotta really hope and pray that A&M is not on their A game in this one, because if they are, I don't really think it matters how South Carolina plays. A&M is just a really, really good football team.
Yeah, and I thought Jordan, when he was on with Elijah in the last hour there, made a really good point, because now that we know that Furry's going to be one of the calling plays, there's been a lot of, looking at it and, okay, here's what he did at Limestone, here's what his offense did, and all this kind of stuff. And he brought the point, is like, well, if your offensive line can't protect,
yes,
you can have all the ideas in the world of what you want to do differently or break out this and that, but if you don't have protection, you don't have time for your quarterback to sit back there and make things happen, it's all kind of a moot point.
You're right. I mean, here's the thing with South Carolina is, you're right, it does not matter who's calling plays. I mean, this offensive line is going to be tested quite a bit this weekend, and it doesn't matter what starting five you have out there. They've proven all year that it's been inconsistent at best with what kind of blocking you're going to get, and more times than not, it's been pretty rough up front. And what'd you say, 68% of the time?
68% of blitzes.
Yes. So A&M is going to bring a lot of pressure, and I'm sure they're watching the tape right now, just laughing about how.
Excuse me, sorry. They only blitzed him 32% of the time.
Huh. So where'd you get the six? So what was up?
Sorry, it was 68 when he was not blitzed. I was looking at it backwards, but still, they got a lot of pressure on him.
Point is, I would imagine it's going to be a ton of blitz this weekend. It should be. It should be. You should have to force this offensive line, their hand, to try and block better than anything we've seen all year. And if you are able to get some push up front and generate some time for Lenoris to throw in the pocket, hopefully receivers are able to catch balls, and hopefully Sellers is able to make some throws. But you really need to bank on this offensive line doing its job, because all season, besides maybe a few moments here and there, a game here and there, it just has not been great up front.
You're going to have to get the ball out quick, and you're going to need to have routes for your receivers where they're getting open quickly, short fields, those kind of, or short depths, those kind of things. Like, don't send everybody out running verticals, because you're not going to have time for that. You're going to have to keep it close and keep it short.
And I wonder how much of the offense this weekend is, because you go back to what Furry's offenses did at Limestone, a lot of throwing the ball. I wonder how much of that is going to be the plan for this weekend, because South Carolina has also struggled to run the football consistently this entire season. So I think a lot of it is going to come down to, okay, Lenoris, you got to get the ball out quick. Offensive line, you got to give him as much time as possible to throw, because if not, it could be a long day.
We'll get into what happened around college football this weekend, including a couple of top 10 teams barely escaping on the road. We'll dive into that next. It is the Extra Point. Tyra and Jack Belcher in Reaction Monday here on The Game.
Mendoza in trouble. It's out. Touchdown! Wow! Omar Cooper! Unbelievable! Giving the Heisman Trophy now.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Ed and Jack Belcher with you on your Reaction Monday. That was the call in Happy Valley on Saturday, though it's probably not too happy right now, is number 2 Indiana narrowly escapes the dismal Penn State Nittany Lions 27-24 as Fernando Mendoza finds Omar Cooper in the back of the end zone. Quite literally, he got a toe in, and that was pretty much it. But that was enough to get the touchdown and break Gus Johnson in the process there on the call for Fox Sports as Indiana escaped. Has anybody checked on Gus? Is he okay? Does he have a voice now?
I would hope he has a pulse. I mean, his heart probably was pounding in that moment as he's making that call. And, I mean, Gus is a top-notch announcer, first off. He does a great job over there at Fox. But the catch, I mean, I would say that's one of the best catches I've ever seen. It was not even just the catch, but for Omar Cooper to keep his foot in bounds, toe tap perfectly. Because in that moment, as you watch the catch live, I was sitting in the stands during that Western Carolina game, phone on, watching that game. Girlfriend's mad that I'm...
As any good sicko would.
Caroline was pissed that I was watching that game while the Western game's going on. She's like, put that phone down. I'm like, I need to watch this. Penn State might pull off this upset here. But in real time, you watch that catch, and it's like, oh, no way he got his foot down. No way he got his foot down. It was back of the end zone. There's no chance. And then you watch the replay, and then you see the athleticism, the beauty of football, and just getting that foot down. It's remarkable. It really is just a fantastic catch.
Yeah, that was my parents came up and hung out this weekend. So my dad and I were watching football on Saturday, and seeing it live, we're like, oh, there's no way. There is no way. And I don't know. I thought a ref at the back of the end zone was just giving him the benefit of the doubt. But, like, they went back and reviewed it, and again, he had maybe an inch worth of wiggle room to where he could have gotten that toe down. And, like, that is, if you ever think about what separates the athletes that play at just that level of football, not talking about even the NFL, but just playing Division I, Power 4 college football, it's things like that. To be able to catch a ball and simultaneously have the awareness to get your toes inbounds before you get to the white line, like that is something the average human is not capable of doing.
The European mind could not comprehend.
No,
that.
It could not.
Like, it's just insane, that play. And, Penn State, I feel like played a pretty good game in this one. Had Indiana on the ropes, but the drive before the touchdown drive that won this game for Indiana, not being able to put the game away. They were not able to get another first down to extend the drive with 2 minutes to go. That probably would have sealed the deal with Indiana not having, I think it was maybe one timeout left at the time. I mean, Indiana's backs were up against the wall, but this is what championship-level football teams do.
Yeah.
Go down the field, and it was not a pretty game. Maybe Indiana will drop a spot in the rankings because of this game, but it's not easy going into Penn State. And they're able to do it because they have what, in my opinion, looks like a Heisman Trophy quarterback right now.
And I honestly think that throw might have been his Heisman moment. And look,
I think it's the one we were looking for.
He didn't have a great game on Saturday, like overall statistically wise, but like he was surgical on that last drive, which started off with taking a sack, which, put him behind the 8 ball, and it looked like, they were going to have a tough time coming back from that, but he just made throw after throw after throw, and then making that one again, putting it, and again, great play by the receiver to be able to get his foot in, but putting it in only a spot in the back of the end zone where his wide receiver can come down with it, unbelievable. And we talked about this last week, I think, when we were discussing what the Heisman race was right now. And you look at Mendoza, you look at Julian Sayin, you look at even Marcel Reed, and it's like, okay, who's had that Heisman moment so far? And I think Fernando Mendoza had his on Saturday.
I think we have a winner. I mean, I think that was the moment. The moment is so much about the catch that Omar Cooper made, because it takes a really great type of athleticism and a receiver to make that play, as we mentioned before. But you brought up the point, Tyler. The catch is great, but the throw to get into a tight window, back of the end zone, to make that play was just as good. So that it's not so much just Cooper's moment as it is what Mendoza did to get that ball to him. I mean, that's a really good play. And I think that is the Heisman definitive moment right now that we were kind of talking about last week of nobody's had that moment yet, but yet we just found it now.
I was fully prepared, though, to make jokes at the expense of James Franklin if Penn State pulled this off. Because, again, the biggest knock on James Franklin is he could not beat top 10 teams. And, again, 2 weeks before he got fired, he took Oregon to overtime in the whiteout game. So Terry Smith, with the backup quarterback, very nearly pulled that off exactly. If James Franklin is coaching, does Penn State win this game?
I mean,
and Drew Aller's healthy. I'll throw that in there too.
I think Penn State does find a way to win this game. I mean, they had a pretty good overall game plan, but again, it just comes down to you need to finish at the end of this game. Like the fact that they were not able to extend the drive, get a first down, with really what looked like Indiana was just on life support, and they weren't able to finish it. That's the thing. So I don't really think it matters necessarily if Franklin's out there coaching or if Drew Aller's out there. Maybe it matters a little bit, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Indiana did what they had to do and got the win.
I never thought we'd be saying this about the Indiana Hoosiers football team.
Think about it, 2 seasons ago, we were.
Well, it's a classic example of you got to cut the head off a snake. When you have a team like that on the ropes, and again, Penn State came back and took the lead in this game, you have to be able to deliver the kill shot. You have to be able to cut their head off and prevent them from coming back, because if you leave them any good teams like this, if you leave them any kind of wiggle room, they're going to find a way to get back in the game, and that's what Indiana did.
Another game that was really outstanding over the weekend in the Big Ten as well. Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Outlasting Iowa in Kinnick. I mean, what a great game. Rain coming down, Dan Lanning wearing a cotton shirt, wanting to, be like one of the guys out there, and they're able to survive what was a real scare against an Iowa team that played pretty well, all things considered. I mean, that the final touchdown that Iowa scored there to take the lead before the field goal that won it for Oregon. I mean, just a really, really good series there.
And by the way, Mark Gronowski, their quarterback, hit the most aggressive 6-7 I've ever seen after he scored that touchdown. That was not enough, though. And here's where I want to give Oregon a lot of credit, because they beat Iowa at Iowa's game, right? You mentioned it. They went on the road. It was 40 degrees and raining. Like, that's a game where you have to pull up your bootstraps and go out there and fight for 4 quarters, and that's what they did. It wasn't the prettiest game offensively, but they won a Big Ten brawl at Iowa, which is very impressive.
That is certainly I know Oregon's now been in the league for over a year now, but that's certainly the welcome to the Big Ten type of initiation right there. You have to go into Midwest, go to Iowa, go to Kinnick. That's a tough place to go play for any team, and deal with the elements as well. And have to not only, you can't play your West Coast style of football. You can't play that Pac-12 style in the Big Ten. This is a league that you're going to get bruised. You're going to have to really get your yards, and it's going to be tough every single time. And it wasn't a great passing performance at all, but running for 260 yards in this game for Oregon, getting enough just to pull it out in the end. That's, again, it's very much similar to the whole Indiana case here.
Right.
Oregon's now 8-1. That's a championship level win right there, I think, to come out of there. And I think it just proves to them that, hey, they can go anywhere, beat any team.
We mentioned Fernando Mendoza having his Heisman moment when it came to throwing the touchdown pass against Penn State. Again, Dante Moore didn't have his best performance on Saturday, and the rain probably didn't help with that. But he threw that 24-yarder that got them into field or close to field goal range. Or I got him in field goal range, sorry, because it took him down to the 27-yard line. That may have been, I don't know if he's going to win the Heisman Trophy, that may have been one of those kind of throws that get you like to New York, or at least get you in the conversation, or continues you in the conversation, because he threw that into such a small window that was phenomenal.
I don't think he gets talked about enough compared to some of the other guys. We talk about Marcel Reed, we talk about Mendoza, we talk about Ty Simpson, we talk about all those guys and how they're going to be in New York probably, I would imagine. But Dante Moore definitely not the greatest game on Saturday at Iowa. But again, you're playing in the rain. You have to beat them at their own game. Throws like that should definitely help. And don't look at the overall stat line necessarily, but look at the plays that this guy's making. I mean, he definitely deserves a chance to at least be there in New York.
Well, it certainly looked like the Big Ten was going to give us two of the upsets that we've kind of gotten used to over the course of the entire season so far. Those ended up coming actually in the ACC, and, well, that conference continues to be a mystery as we head into the final couple weeks of the regular season. We'll discuss what happened in the All-Coast Conference coming up next. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Reaction Monday here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Velchey with you, wrapping up hour number 1 here on your Reaction Monday as we're taking a spin around college football. As it was a wild weekend. Nearly had 2 top 10 upsets, but where the upsets really happened was in the teens, and particularly 2 teams in the ACC. Now, Jack, when you weren't here on Friday, I kind of dove in to every conference's individual races in the conference championships and kind of seeing, okay, how many teams from the ACC have a shot at getting in to the college football playoff. And it kind of seemed like they were trending towards a one-bid league anyway. But I think with the results of Saturday, that pretty much confirms that only one ACC team is going to get into the college football playoff this year, because both Wake Forest and Louisville end up going down, or excuse me, Virginia and Louisville end up going down. Virginia loses to Wake Forest, and then Louisville loses to Cal on Saturday. And the Virginia game can be explained simply as 3 turnovers. They turned the ball over 3 times. They outgained the Fighting Robbie Ashfords by over 100 yards. But you turn the ball over 3 times, in most games, you're going to lose that.
Robbie Ashford, by the way, 7 of 16 for 46 yards in that game. How about it? I mean, that's a Heisman level effort right there to get the win.
Listen,
but
we know what Robbie Ashford is as a quarterback.
We know what he is. He ran for 57 yards though. But yeah, Virginia. I mean, look, give credit to Wake Forest. 6-3 on the year, 3-3 in conference play. I don't think I was expecting to say that about the Demon Deacons at this point in the season, having a pretty good year, bowl eligible, because they've been through some rough seasons the last few years. But to do this at Virginia, too, and get that win there, it's big. It's big for them. But for Virginia, I mean, look, the window of opportunity was there to really grab the bull by the horns and kind of just take hold of this conference. But they couldn't. You're not going to win a game scoring 9 points, all on field goals, by the way. That's just not going to win you this game. And at the same time, I mean, same thing happened with Louisville this weekend. Louisville also had a chance. They beat Miami a few weeks back out in South Beach, out in Coral Gables. Really big win there. Kind of shook up the whole ACC because it looked like Miami was going to run away with this thing. But ever since then, this conference has just kind of just become a cluttered mess of teams that it's going to be a one-bid league at the end of the day.
Yeah, and here's where things get messy. And we'll learn the new college football playoff rankings coming up tomorrow night. But the AP poll dropped Louisville and Virginia to 19 and 20 respectively. I imagine the college football playoff poll will probably look pretty similar, and that means that Georgia Tech is the lone highest-rated ACC team, 14th in the AP poll. We'll see what the college football playoff has. They were 17th this past weekend, and seeing if they can move up there. But yeah, it looks like they're going to be a one-bid league. Now, the problem is figuring out who the heck's going to play in the conference championship, because we have 5 teams with only 1 loss in conference play. Now, Louisville lost their 2nd game in conference play on Saturday. I believe that's probably going to eliminate them from making the conference championship, aside from just mass chaos happening over the course of the next couple weeks. But Duke, SMU, who are unranked right now, still only have 1 loss. Pittsburgh, Virginia, and Georgia Tech also with 1 loss. Teams currently ranked in the top 25. I don't know what the heck's going to happen. I truly don't. You could tell me that Georgia Tech and Virginia could play for the conference championship. You could tell me Duke and SMU could play each other for the conference championship, and I can believe all those things.
It's going to be crazy. I mean, can you imagine a scenario in which Duke gets to the conference championship with that 1 loss in conference play and wins it?
By the way, they have 4 losses.
Yeah.
Only 1 in conference play, though.
They just lost to UConn over the weekend, and that's a non-conference loss because UConn is, they're an independent. They lost to Illinois earlier in the season. I mean, it's a weird year for Duke, but yet they're doing pretty well in conference play right now. And look, even Pitt could lose this weekend to Notre Dame, and it doesn't matter it matters for the overall resume, but like in terms of the ACC, it doesn't matter because guess what? Notre Dame's also independent. So, and Georgia Tech could also lose at the end of the season to Georgia.
Yep.
But as long as I think this is kind of still looking like Georgia Tech's conference to lose at this point. I know they lost the game to NC State last week, but I still think Tech's a really good team, and I expect a lot of chaos the rest of the way. But, I mean, this could really come down to 4 or 5 6 teams maybe.
Now we do have Georgia Tech will play Pitt in 2 weeks, so that will add another loss to one of those teams. And then Virginia, this upcoming weekend, will play Duke. So you do have an instance where 2 of the 5 teams, or you have 2 matchups between the 5 teams tied right now for the conference lead. So that will sort itself out a little bit. But again, if chaos continues to unfold, there's no telling what could happen. And let's see, SMU, they do have to play Louisville. And they play Louisville and Cal, and that's it. So SMU, again, if chaos continues to unfold around them, could maybe backdoor their way into this conference championship once again.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see, end of the year, which 2 teams in this conference are playing for the ACC championship. And it wouldn't shock me at all if it's teams with multiple losses, like 2, 3. I think we could easily see a team like Duke get in with 4 losses as an ACC champ. But it brings up an interesting discussion at the end after the season of, we have the automatic bids for the conference champs right now, but would they ever consider changing that in the whole landscape of college football if a 4 or 3 loss team gets in?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think conferences are going to let go of their automatic spots, but we'll see. We still got to figure out what next year's playoffs is going to look like because we still don't know. Coming up in hour number 2, we'll get into what the rest of the top 10 teams did over the weekend as the extra point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Monday on the Game. Tyler Head here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. I always tell you about what a great time you can have down there watching sports, hanging out with friends, and all that. But Twin Peaks also loves to honor our military. And coming up tomorrow, which is Veterans Day, Twin Peaks honors the brave men and women who have served our country. And you can join Twin Peaks on November 11th from 11 until 3 for a free Veterans Day lunch. All veterans and active duty service members enjoy a complimentary lunch meal. It's their way of saying thank you for your service and sacrifice. And you can come share a meal and raise a toast to America's heroes again tomorrow over at Twin Peaks. And after tomorrow or any day of the week, you can go by and hang out and check all the great action that's going on in whatever sport you're interested in, whether it be football, basketball, hockey, anything. They've got it for you on TV as far as the eye can see. Tons and tons of delicious food. And, of course, those 29-degree draft beers. Let friends at Twin Peaks, eats, drinks, and scenic views. All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher with you here on your Reaction Monday. Again, no Carolina football this past weekend, so we're reacting to what happened around the country in college football. Real quick, tomorrow, it is Veterans Day, as I just talked about there with what's going on over at Twin Peaks, and we'll be out tomorrow from 6 a.m. until 3 p.m. for the Veterans Day event over at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. Hopefully we'll see a lot of you out there on the golf course. But again, that's tomorrow from 6 until 3, broadcasting the early game, the Extra Point Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, and then the halftime show, all out at Charwood Golf Club tomorrow. Included in that will, of course, be Shane Beamer's presser, which is tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock as we get things back to normal with the game week as Carolina stares down the barrel of a very, very good Texas A&M team that we talked about earlier on in the last hour that dominated Missouri this past weekend with a reverse Fetty Wap of 38-17.
Yeah, really good performance for A&M. As we mentioned earlier, I mean, if you still don't believe in Texas A&M because of past history and what's happened before with their inevitable crumble down the stretch, I advise going against that, because this team, time and time again, whenever there's doubt, they're proving people wrong and continuing to remain unbeaten this late into the season. Think about it. Who would have thought Texas A&M has the best record in the SEC as the lone unbeaten team at this point? I mean, this is a conference that, go back to last year, everyone's beating up on each other and everyone's handing each other losses right and left. And we kind of expected the same thing to happen this year, which it has happened to some extent. But A&M's avoided that. A&M's avoided being a part of the chaos, and they're really setting themselves up right now for a chance to go to Atlanta here in a few weeks if they can keep winning. Yeah,
playing extremely good football, and really, and look, Missouri was starting a true freshman quarterback that's a third string in Matt Zollers, and he had a tough time on Saturday, 7 of 22 for 77 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. One thing they did do well was run the ball decently enough, as they had 207 yards on the ground, most of that between Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy, though they didn't really run Ahmad Hardy as much as they probably should have. But it's like, okay, well, Missouri was able to run the ball a little bit. Well, Carolina can't really run the ball. You know what I mean? So you don't even see like a pathway of, hey, if Carolina can do that a little bit better than Missouri, they're likely not going to run the ball better than Missouri did. Again, I'm not seeing the angles of like, okay, here's where Carolina can really exploit them this upcoming weekend.
I mean, still, Missouri had 207 yards on the ground. I mean, it's not like Roberts and Hardy didn't play well in this game. They both had over 100 yards and a touchdown apiece. And, Ahmad Hardy averaged 8.5 yards rushing per carry. Jamal Roberts averaged 6.5. So that's a good starting point if you're South Carolina of looking at the formula of how you're going to win this game. But it also comes down to you got to be able to really block, and you got to have Lenore Sellers have like a career day, which we don't know what's going to be the case with this offense and Mike Furry running the show now as the primary play caller. So, I mean, you hope that it can be something completely different this weekend offensively, but I don't think that's enough. I mean, what's your defense going to do? That's a whole nother way to look at this game. And can you kind of force A&M to do things that they haven't done all year, which is go back to kind of just playing, making mistakes and hoping that they lead to critical points in the game where it's like, okay, South Carolina can capitalize here, or maybe they get a special team score or a defensive score, something along those lines, because you're going to need a lot of chaos this weekend out in College Station.
Elsewhere in the top 10, Alabama, really, I know it was an 11-point game, but it never really felt like Alabama was out of control of this thing, as it took care of LSU 20-9, game that they led 17-3 at half, and LSU just couldn't finish drives. That was the thing. They could move the ball a little bit, but when they got down towards the red zone, they just continued to stall out. They eventually get a bench Garrett Nussmeier, which we'll get specifically into that coming a little bit more in a minute. But, the last time we saw Alabama 2 weeks ago when they played here, it was not the best version of them we'd seen this year. Definitely a team that looked like they were a little bit beat up, ready for a bye week, but they come out of the bye strong, and they still got some tests in these last couple of games to get out of the regular season, but they still control their own destiny in terms of making not only the SEC championship but the college ball playoff, and took care of their usual bitter rival in LSU.
Yeah, I mean, scoring the 2 touchdowns that they did, there in the second quarter. I mean, who would have thought that ultimately made the difference, and they were up by 14 points going into halftime. And, yeah, I mean, this defense for Alabama really played a great game on Saturday, holding LSU to 3 field goals. And, you know, when LSU made the switch from Nussmeier to Van Buren, you would have thought it made a little bit of a difference. I mean, LSU was able to move the ball a little bit, but still did not lead to anything finding the end zone. And this is a really good Alabama team. It's crazy how much different they look from put them up side by side. The Florida State game and the LSU game. There's 2 completely different teams. One that I think had a lot to prove at the beginning of the year. A lot of people doubting them after what happened last year. But this kind of feels like it's not Nick Saban's Alabama team anymore.
Sure.
But it certainly feels like a team that is ready to go on a championship run here.
I heard, Ty Simpson being interviewed after the game, and, he said, we knew nobody believed in us and all this kind of stuff. And, the performance we saw against Florida State certainly warranted people thinking you weren't going to be very good, but I think our attitudes quickly changed on that when we saw what they started doing, especially against quality competition. So there's nobody that doesn't believe in you anymore. We think, okay, that's still Alabama. They look like Alabama.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. This team, they have all the ingredients to do what the Saban teams did before. They have a pretty good quarterback, one that I think you're going to see Ty Simpson in New York fighting for that Heisman Trophy with a few weeks left to go here. They have the quarterback. They have the playmakers on offense at receiver, at running back, and they have the defense. I mean, all the ingredients you could want to go out here and potentially win a national championship this season. It's going to be tough with the 12-team format now, but this Alabama team is just really, really playing well right now.
Looking elsewhere in the top 10 of college football, the biggest game of the entire weekend, that's where College Game Day was BYU going to Texas Tech, a matchup of number 7 and number 8. And I said on Friday it would benefit the Big 12 the best if Texas Tech won this game, because BYU came in undefeated. That would put both those teams with 1 loss, set them up for a potential rematch in the conference championship, though BYU still has to play Cincinnati, and that would be a pathway for getting both teams in. But the way that Texas Tech dominated this game on Saturday, I'm curious to see how far BYU falls in the standings, because, and I looked this up just to make sure, do you know how many times BYU crossed the Texas Tech 50-yard line on Saturday?
Wasn't much. I didn't get a chance to really watch this game too in depth, but, I mean, seeing how they were shut out for most of the day, I mean, I can imagine it was not much at all.
3 times. They had 12 drives. They crossed the 50-yard line 3 times. They missed a field goal. They did have a touchdown drive, and then they turned the ball over on downs at the end of the game.
Yikes.
3 trips into enemy territory in an entire game on Saturday.
I think you bring up an interesting point earlier. Where is BYU going to fall this week in the next CFP rankings? I don't think BYU, they don't have a game coming up that's like, oh, if they win this game, they get themselves right back in the mix. They get TCU at Cincinnati, at home versus UCF. None of those games really scream, okay, that's a resume builder type of win. Win those games and you finish 11-1, it'll create an interesting discussion at the end of the year. I mean, as long as BYU continues to win, they should be able to get to the Big 12 championship, and that would, I mean, if they win that, they're going to get in as an automatic. But I got to imagine right now, I mean, is the Big 12 getting 2 teams in?
Well, if Texas Tech can win out, because they'll be in the top 10, and then BYU beats them in the conference championship game, I still see a pathway for getting both those teams in. Because right now, I think BYU's only chance is to get in via the conference championship and winning that. And again, if you have a performance where Texas Tech dominated BYU in the regular season, but BYU's, let's say, wins on a last-second field goal or overtime in the conference championship, I don't think they're going to knock Texas Tech for splitting the series with them. And again, BYU would have to be in at that point because they're the conference champion. So there's still a pathway for both of them to be able to get in to the conference championship. Again, BYU does still have to play Cincinnati coming up in a couple weeks, and that's tricky there. And Cincinnati does still have a pathway themselves as the other team, the 3rd team, with only 1 loss in conference play. So we got to throw them in the mix as well. So still 3 teams very much alive in the race, though for BYU and Cincinnati, it's likely just going to have to be by winning the conference championship to get in.
And we know if this were the SEC or the Big Ten, this would be no debate. If both these teams have one loss going into the conference championship, assuming it's Tech and BYU, both of them would get in probably regardless. But since it is not that conference, it's the Big 12, which definitely does not get looked at the same compared to those upper echelon conferences. It might be a little bit trickier, but I think you're right. If BYU does run the table the rest of the way and wins the Big 12, and assuming Texas Tech does not have another slip up the rest of the way, since they only have one loss right now, I think it'd be hard to drop both of them, not have two teams in. Whoever loses the Big 12 championship game, unless it's just an utter blowout, then it's like, okay.
Sure.
But if you're right, if it's like a close game, goes down the wire, comes down to a field goal, I think you gotta be able to put both teams in, especially since you probably figure the ACC is only going to get one team in, and we'll see how many come out of the Big 12 and the SEC, and plus you get the one Group of 5 team in there.
Yeah, and Notre Dame, if they continue to win,
too.
which
Dame too.
They survived a test against Navy. Now Navy
a test.
Yeah, we'll see. Navy started off 7-0, but then they played North Texas and Notre Dame, which were both significantly better than any other teams they've played, and they've lost both those games pretty significantly. So yeah, Notre Dame survived that test there. They seem pretty destined at this point in time to probably be in.
Going to Pitt this weekend, though.
That's tricky. Pitt is tricky.
That can be tricky, and Pitt could kind of get itself back into the mix a little bit, maybe. We'll see. But back to this Texas Tech. I feel like we haven't talked about Texas Tech enough here. What a performance for them. I picked BYU to win this game in staff picks. I didn't realize how hard it'd be to go to Lubbock and win on the road there. I mean, Tech looks really, really good right now. Much better than the team from a few weeks ago where they were kind of struggling a little bit, but they look really sharp right now, and all signs point to them kind of looking like the team to beat in the Big 12.
Well, Texas Tech, as we kind of know in this era, when you have the resources and go out and get a lot of really good talent across your entire roster, it'll end up being pretty good. And right now, as long as they don't trip over their own 2 feet, they should be able to make the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, this has all the makings of being a 2-bid league as long as it's BYU and Tech, but we're going to have to see what else happens around the country. And again, like we said, Cincinnati is still very much in the mix here with only one conference loss.
We'll get into what happened with a couple of quarterbacks in the SEC that have now had a new vantage point for watching the rest of the game. We'll dive into that coming up next. It is the Extra Point, Tyler Head and Jack Beltry, along with you on your Reaction Monday here on The Game.
Yeah, so as we discussed as a staff, we knew there could be opportunities in the quarterback run game, and then at the back end, as they tried to bring closure to it, they would make it difficult to just sit in the pocket. And so we wanted to move him around and do some things. We thought that he gave us a chance to do those things, so that went into the thought and why we put him in.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Howard and Jack Beltry with you here on your Reaction Monday on the game. That was the voice of LSU interim coach Frank Wilson talking about the decision on Saturday night to bench Garrett Nussmeier in the late stages of that game and put in transfer Michael Van Buren II, or Michael Van Buren Jr., to help close out the game for LSU as they would eventually lose 20-9 against the number 4 team in the country in Alabama. And they did move the ball better when they had MVB in that game, but still they weren't able to get in the end zone and ultimately end up losing. But it's been an interesting case study these past couple weeks on just how much Garrett Nussmeier has fallen off, right? And it's been a struggle the entire year. We talked about this going into their game against Carolina almost a month ago now, where he just wasn't quite the same. He'd been dealing with the oblique injury before the season and all that kind of stuff, but he just didn't look right for most of the season. Even in some of the games they won earlier on in the year, it wasn't a dazzlingly impressive performance. He's just kind of steadily gotten a little bit worse as the year's gone along. And I know his completion percentage is really high, but on Saturday for when he was in there, but just still, it wasn't the game they wanted. The offense wasn't moving the ball well with him in there, and they ultimately decided to make a change. And we'll see if Michael Van Buren's going to start the last couple of games for them or not.
I think the best thing LSU can move forward is to start Michael Van Buren the rest of the way. Because what does LSU have to play for at this point other than pride and making a bowl game? And if you're Frank Wilson here, the interim head coach for the Tigers, you're trying to put up the best audition possible to win this, earn the head coaching job moving forward. Now, is he going to get it? Probably not. I mean, it would take something crazy down the stretch. A win over Alabama would have certainly gone a long way. But heading into these final 3 games here, I think you really got to assess things. And look, Nussmeier's not going to be here next year, right? He's kind of done his thing, and it just hasn't worked out this year, and he hasn't really played great. I think you got to go with Van Buren, see what you can do with him, and hopefully he can be your guy moving forward because he'll still have eligibility after this season.
Elsewhere, though, on Saturday in the SEC, another quarterback that we thought was going to be at the top of the league also found himself getting benched. And here is Florida coach Billy Gonzalez talking about that.
Well, that was my decision. I think we had a rough first half, and I thought it might be good for him just to have a chance to gather and take a look at it from a coach's point and a coach's view from the sideline. But yeah, well, we need to play better all the way around, not just him. Everybody needs to play a little bit better, and I'll take the blame on everything for everything. I think that if you take a look at what we do and where we need to be, it's unacceptable, and I'm going to put me up in front and say that's on me. I'll take the blame for this loss 100%. So we got to be better, and we've got to be better. I've got to be better. Make sure these players can continue forward.
Of course, that's in reference to DJ Lagway, who got benched Saturday at halftime, I believe, in their loss to Kentucky. Now, here's the thing. Florida really impressed me a week and a half ago now when they played Georgia. First game coming off of Billy Napier getting fired, and they played Georgia down to the wire. Took a late touchdown for Georgia to be able to seal that game against Florida. I thought, you know what? That's a team that's going to be still in the mix in all these games they have going forward to still be able to win all of them. And then they go on the road to Kentucky and get their doors blown off by 31 points. Final score 38-7. And DJ Lagway, as I mentioned, getting mentioned at halftime there. Offense was doing absolutely nothing with him. Threw 3 interceptions. This guy is a turnover machine, and we may have actually seen the DJ Lagway era end at Florida on Saturday.
Yeah, those 3 interceptions are going to lead to a subsequent benching right away there. And, yeah, this has been a rough year for him. 11 touchdowns this season, 12 interceptions. Almost half of those came against LSU all the way back in September when he had those 5 interceptions in Baton Rouge in a game that Florida still lost by 10. But, yeah, I mean, just a really embarrassing performance for Florida. against Kentucky. And look, I think Florida could have made history firing a interim coach. I mean, it's just bad right now out there in Gainesville. It really is.
Well, and we're talking about two guys in Garrett Nussmeier and DJ Lagway that, like Lenore Sellers, came in as some of the favorites to be the best quarterbacks in the SEC, and specifically both those guys, like Sellers, also came in with top 10 Heisman odds. And now we're talking about two of those guys getting benched, and I think it's a perfect microcosm for how upside down this season's been in terms of the quarterbacks we thought were going to be great, which, again, here's the top 10 list. Here's the quarterbacks list in the top 10 for Heisman odds coming into the year. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, Lenore Sellers, Drew Aller, Ty Simpson, Carson Beck, Sam Levitt, DJ Lagway. Ty Simpson's the only one that's had a season even in the realm of being considered for the Heisman Trophy, which he still is. All those other guys, to some degree or the other, have not lived up to expectations.
That's a really interesting list right there. funny how that works, but yeah, Lagway. I mean, if you're Florida, I think you got to cut bait with him at the end of the year. Move on from him. I don't know what they're paying him in NIL, but
a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Did you see what he was driving on any given Saturday?
What was he? Was
it a Bentley or a Maserati? Some kind of fancy car.
I don't remember. I mean, point is, he ain't worth it. He ain't worth it. Too many turnovers. You know, I'm sure another school out there, maybe like a Miami, who's going to need a quarterback next year, will go pick him up and revive him and turn him into a Heisman frontrunner. But yeah, it's not working out at Florida.
It's not, and again, it's a classic example of just because you're a 5-star, especially at quarterback, doesn't mean you're going to pan out. And one thing that I thought was really interesting, when they played Georgia last week, they did a really good job on the broadcast of detailing the mechanical things that he does wrong. His footwork is bad. You know, his obviously decision-making is bad, throwing into traffic. Like, he is not developed well enough at the quarterback spot to be good enough in the SEC. And I think a lot of us, including myself, thought this offseason might be the time because he only got, he was kind of thrust in the starting role last year when Graham Mertz got hurt and kind of learned the hard way in a lot of ways. And I thought this offseason was going to be where he really took a step forward, and it has not happened to the point where, I mean, he may not be good enough to be at a Power 4 school as a quarterback next year. He may have to transfer down to like the G5 ranks.
He's going to have to rebuild himself, I think. I think this is going to be such a critical offseason for him, and I think it makes it a lot more conceivable that he would leave, considering, Billy Napier's no longer there. He got fired. That's his coach. That's part of why he committed to Florida originally. I think, but more so than that, I think he just needs a fresh slate, clean start somewhere else, whether it is at a smaller school in the G5 ranks, or maybe it is at another Power 4 school. Personally, I agree with you. I do think it would be best to, whether it is at one of those places, I think probably going down a level might be a little bit better just to build that confidence back up, because he is only a sophomore right now. So he's still got a few years left of eligibility, but he's nowhere ready to take that next step right now. It just has not looked good this entire season. And the interceptions, I mean, you got to find a way to clean those up, because it's really killing him right now.
Also, shout out to Mark Stoops, maybe kind of saving his job the past couple of weeks, beating Auburn in a loser-leaves town match and now thrashing Florida.
You got Tennessee Tech coming up, which Tennessee Tech's a good program.
They're undefeated.
Undefeated at 10-0. So as Elijah's pointing at me, he knows about that Tennessee football out there. That could be a tricky game. But let's say Kentucky wins that game. They're 5-5. All you got to do is win one of the next two games, both on the road, at Vanderbilt, at Louisville. Vanderbilt nearly got upset this weekend by an upstart Auburn team with a new coach, interim coach with DJ Durkin. And then at Louisville, you never know what can happen in a rivalry game. Yeah. Kentucky, I think you got to get to 6 wins for to feel good about Stoops and saving his job, because after all, he did pay Zach Calzada to come here, and we know
as he's been flexing on people.
We know how that has turned out. A big mistake right there.
That was really funny.
That's a fireable offense, bringing in Calzada and paying him that much money. But Kentucky, they're not the worst team in this conference right now.
They're not.
So I think we could shut that narrative down.
Well, at least for 2 weeks, Mark Stoops has kept himself employed. So there's that. Ray, I see you on the phone lines. We'll get to you coming up next as Reaction Monday rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you here on The Game. Well, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher with you on your Reaction Monday. Of course, no Carolina football happening this weekend, but plenty of other things to react to around the world, not only college football, but college and pro sports in general. And we'll head out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. I got Ray wants to talk some Reaction Monday. Ray, appreciate your call as always. What's on your mind today?
Good morning, Tyler. Good morning, Jack. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Hey, just wanted to talk a little Carolina basketball to start off with. Yeah, man, I'll tell you, I don't know how many wins this team's going to get this year, but it was very impressive that they were able to come back. But, man, am I glad Michi Johnson came back to the Gamecocks. He willed that team to a win. I mean, without him, they probably lose that game double digits, but what a player. I mean, I think he had like 3 3-pointers in the final 2 minutes. I'm not sure, but also wanted to put it out there for Eli Ellis for a freshman. I thought he was had a really good game. He also grabbed 7 boards to go along with 20 points. And then the guy, I'm going to butcher his name, guys. Y'all can pronounce it, Mike Shervachowicz, whatever.
We just, Mongolian Mike.
Sharvajams.
Mongolian Mike's a lot easier to say.
Mongolian Mike, that's what I like. Yeah, Mongolian Mike, 17 points. But what a sweet stroke he has.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it was fun to watch. I mean, guys, I was hoping Jordan Butler would get in that weight room and put on about 30 pounds of muscle and just be a monster down low. I just don't think that's going to happen there. We got to find some inside defense by the time we get to the league play. But still, hey, it was an enjoyable win. We got to get as many wins as we can. I think if this team could get 17 to 18 wins this year, to me, that's progress. And also, hey, Tyler, I just want to just indicate this. I think there's a team that's got a great shot at winning the national title that somehow people aren't talking about much. That's the Georgia Bulldogs. I watched that game against Mississippi State. I know Mississippi State's no great team, but they're a decent team. But I watched it from I don't know what they call that angle, Tyler, on ESPN, the Sky View or whatever.
Yeah, I think the SEC network had the Sky View of the game. Is that correct? And
it like down to the line of scrimmage from back behind the quarterback. And I will tell you this. I watched that game, the whole game, because I got so interested in that angle. Georgia, of course, they got good players. That is one of the best coached teams I've seen. Those guys knew what to do. The linemen knew where to go to block. The running back, I'm going to tell you, Frazier is as good as a running back as I've seen this year, Tyler. That's the honest truth. I don't care what anybody says, what anybody else. That dude's good. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how things go. I'll wait till later in the week to talk about my Gamecocks, but good win by the basketball team, and people better be on the lookout for the Georgia Bulldogs. That's all I can tell you.
I appreciate the call there, Ray. 803-404-6100. Real quick to his point about Georgia, because my parents came up, and my dad and I don't get to watch as many Georgia games these days because I'm always usually busy on Saturdays. We got to watch that one, and me and him were watching it like, wow, they actually put together a full 4 quarters. They didn't put themselves in a 14 or 17-point hole and have to claw out of it. That was the most efficient game they've played this entire year. And I don't know if that's a sign of things to come as you're kind of starting to peak at the right time, but that was a good performance against a team in Mississippi State. We talked about this on Friday. Tricky, right? They'd finally gotten their first conference win. They'd come so close to beating the Tennessees and beating the Texases and all those teams like that. They finally got over that hump, and I thought they were going to give Georgia problems, but Georgia was able to walk out of there with their most comfortable win of the entire year.
Yeah, a lot of teams have struggled with this Mississippi State team throughout the season. A lot of close losses for the Bulldogs, well, Mississippi State, that is. In a season that those games go the other way, we're talking about Mississippi State heading into that game with Georgia probably as a 2-loss team, maybe 1 loss potentially. I mean, like they've had a pretty close year to having a lot of success, but have just come up short in those crucial moments. But this Georgia team manhandled them, won by 20 in Starkville too. A really raucous type of atmosphere, handled their business, and I feel like Georgia is. I think Ray's right. I think Georgia is that team that I can't believe we're saying that. I think people do sleep on them a little bit in that you look at A&M and people. I think people still sleep on A&M, but A&M's doing great this year. Alabama's playing really well, but there's Georgia just kind of lurking like they always are, and if they I think they're going to be able to get to the playoff. And they had a pretty early exit last year, losing the Sugar Bowl to Notre Dame. I think Kirby, Georgia, it's tougher to win in the 12-team format, but I think this Georgia team, like you said, they played a pretty complete game on Saturday. They're built to go go the distance.
Going back to Ray's point about men's basketball, again, Michi Johnson goes off last night, and I think Ray mentioned this earlier when he talked with Elijah and Preston. You know, if you had a guy like Michi on the team last year, you maybe win a couple more of those games, especially the tight ones that you played against, like Auburn and Florida and stuff like that. Because, again, he can be very hot and cold, but when he takes things over, he really takes things over. Again, making those clutch three-pointers there, obviously doing a lot of things in overtime. Now, again, we got the full Michi Johnson experience because you had 5 turnovers mixed in there as well.
Yeah.
But, man, when he's on, when he's having a night, he's having a night.
He is. He's something that this team was missing last year. They had the Colin Murray Boyles who could go out there and be your all-around threat, right? But didn't have the prolific shooter to kind of complement him. Now this year, you kind of have the roles reversed. You have the prolific shooter in Michi back this year. You don't really have that paint presence. But, man, if last night told us anything, you can have some struggles like they did for the better part of that entire game. But you can still win with number 5 out there lighting it up when he is. There are going to be moments this year, inevitably, Tyler, where he's going to have some real struggles. The shots are not going to fall. But that's the beauty of it. And he mentioned Sharva Jumps, too. He had a pretty good game in this one. Eli Ellis played really well. I mean, they got shooters on the floor that even if one guy like Michi isn't having a good night, others are going to be able to step up around him. The key for South Carolina is they're so good when they're making those shots. They had a double-digit point lead in this game. I mean, they looked like in the first half, they're going to be cakewalking to a victory. But when those shots aren't falling, that's the scary part about this team, is that they have so many other problems where their defense isn't good. They turn the ball over too much. I mean, in transition, they were just getting beat all night by Southern Miss. Give Southern Miss a lot of credit. I saw Chris Clark posted a tweet on the Insiders Forum from one of Southern Miss's assistant coaches. Did you know they had I think it was a 14-and-a-half-hour flight delay yesterday?
No, my God.
Didn't get to practice and showed up yesterday at the gym and played a really good game. I mean, that Southern Miss team, I don't think a lot of people were expecting this one to be close at all. And it wasn't for a time, but they got themselves back into that game. And I think that's just the scary part of what can happen if Carolina's not making those three-point shots. Because, as the saying goes, you're going to live by the 3, but you also could very well die by the 3.
And I also wonder as well how many teams are looking at what Southern Miss was able to do successfully with that zone defense and say, you know what, that's what we're going to do against Carolina. Because when they went to that zone, again, not being able to penetrate into the paint there, that's where Carolina started to freeze up in the middle part of that game, and that's when the shots weren't falling as well.
Yeah, so it's great that they got the win. They're 2-0. These are games that they did not win last year. Again, this was very much like the North Florida game from last season where they did not play well. They got it down to a close game in the final minutes, and then we're not able to come through. Different story in this game. We're able to come out and get the win, and you really avoided what could have been a disastrous quad 4 loss, and a lot of it is thanks to Johnson, who really carried this team down the stretch.
Do you know where Carolina ranks in three-point attempts on the season?
It's got to be a lot. I mean, they took, let's see, how many threes did they take yesterday? It was, 43 three-pointers. Made 16 of them.
Yep.
Got to get that number up a little bit.
They're number 1. Nobody's attempted more threes than them.
Here's the thing about this team. Again, like I said, live by the 3, die by the 3. People might think they're not going to do much this year because of what happened last night. But if they are shooting that many threes and making a lot of them, I don't care what team they're facing. They could face the defending national champion Florida Gators here in a few months. South Carolina can beat any team if they're shooting really well. But if not, they can also lose a lot of games.
Yeah, they're also, in terms of points distribution, their three-pointers are accounting for 51% of their points. That's 3rd in the nation right now. So, yes, this is a team, if you like flashy long balls, they're going to do that for you.
Yeah, I think
a lot this year.
It's what this team was missing last year. They can go out here and score with anyone. It's just they're going to have to win some games scoring 80, 90 points. And maybe that's enough to win, but in some nights where the defense isn't there, your offense isn't there, it could be a struggle. But right now, 2-0, looking good. Doesn't matter how you get those wins, so long as you get them.
Well, again, they'll be back in action Wednesday, taking on Presbyterian. That tip is at 7 o'clock. You can listen to that right here on the game pregame coverage starting at 6:30. We'll come back We'll wrap up the hour. How did our NFL teams lose this weekend? We'll discuss that coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri on your Reaction Monday on The Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Our head and Jack Belcher along with you, wrapping up hour number 2 here on your Reaction Monday. Was a wild weekend in the NFL. Had some crazy comebacks on Sunday. Bears scoring 14 in the fourth quarter, not to be outdone by the Texans, scoring 19 in the fourth quarter to win their game over the Jacksonville Jaguars. But one of the most curious final results of the entire weekend. Jack, you want to explain to me how the Dolphins beat the Bills yesterday? I'm still trying to make sense of this one.
I'm still trying to make sense of it, too, because I missed pretty much this entire game yesterday because after coming back from Western Carolina yesterday morning, I had to go to my sister. She does musical theater, so I had to go check out her performance in Mean Girls yesterday, which was very good, by the way. So
what character did she play?
She played Katie Heron's mom. So the lead character, the mom.
Okay.
So she didn't have a huge role, but still, shout out to my sister for that. But I had to check that out, and it was at 1 o'clock to about 4. So by the time I got done, I see the score of the Bills game. I'm like, what the bleep just happened? Because this team, they go from having the best win of the season over the Kansas City Chiefs to the following week losing to the demoralized Miami Dolphins down South Beach. I mean, I can't explain it, Tyler.
It's so weird. And look, the Dolphins blew out my team, the Falcons, a couple weeks ago. And again, that was pretty surprising. Like, the team shouldn't be capable of doing these things, especially against a team like Buffalo. And I don't know, maybe it was too warm down in South Beach because they were in Miami for this one. I'm trying to make sense of it. But, like, the Bills got to be careful. The Patriots are leading the division right now. Like, it's crazy to think that anybody is a worthy adversary to the Bills, but the Patriots are on a 7-game win streak. They've got the division lead, and Buffalo might be looking for a wild card spot here if they're not careful.
And now they're down by 2 games in the division. I mean, they still will play the Patriots again in New England later on this season, but I mean, yeah, they're probably looking at a wild card spot right now, and that's crazy because a week ago it's like, wow, they just beat the Chiefs at home, did it again. And it's like they're going to go on a run here, and the division's very much still up for grabs. Football is such a week-to-week thing, especially in the NFL, where you can be on the highest to highs one week and then thinking everything's all great and you're on the path to a lot of success, 1 seed in the AFC. And the next week we're talking about, is this team even going to be a wild card team? A little bit of inconsistency these last few weeks, but I'm still confident the Bills are going to be fine. It's just that was not a good performance yesterday at all.
No, it was not. Now to my team, who in the last 2 weeks, in regulation, their point differential is only -1. Do you know what the record is in those 2 games, Jack?
I got to imagine it's 0-2.
It is 0-2. Last week, they missed the extra point at the very end against the Patriots on the road, lose that game 24-23. They go to overtime yesterday in Berlin against the Colts team that, again, we've talked about has been the surprise of the NFL season so far, and they couldn't get the job done. Do you want to also know how many third downs the Falcons have converted in the last 2 weeks? Take a wild guess.
How many attempts?
Oh, let me add up the attempts real quick here. So it was 10 last week, and then yesterday 8. So out of 18 third down attempts in the past 2 weeks,
I'll say 4.
1.
Oh my God!
They were 1 for 10 last week and 0 of 8 yesterday against the Colts.
Jeez, that's not good, man. Not good.
No. Look, defense playing well enough, getting some turnovers, finally getting some sacks, good pass rush, but the offense ain't it, man. Which, again, for a team that scored 23 and 25 respectively in the past 2 weeks, that should be enough. It's not. And, again, when you can't convert third downs, you have a bad punt to start regulation or start at the beginning of overtime, that's not a combination for beating good teams, which they haven't been able to do. And we talk about head coaches looking for new jobs. Raheem Morris is being very close to looking for a new job here soon.
He's got to be, right? I mean, this team not performing well right now. It wasn't that a cross-country game yesterday?
It was in Berlin, yes.
Berlin. Okay. 3-6 on the year. Lost 4 straight. I mean, what has happened to the team that beat the Bills in Atlanta on Monday Night Football?
They haven't won a game since.
No, they've been awful. Losses to the Dolphins. You can accept losing to the Niners, the Patriots, the Colts, but I mean, I think you got to cut bait probably at season's end, unless there's a massive turnaround here. which it could be with the Panthers, Saints, Jets coming up, but it's just not looking good right now for the Falcons.
Hey, Saints won the game yesterday. They beat the Panthers. So
what is up with the Panthers and
I don't know,
all
man.
this seesaw?
I can't figure it out.
You hear the players talking about, oh, we just weren't prepared, all this sort of stuff. I mean, this team, they just went to Green Bay the week before, had a massive win over the Packers, and to come back the next week and lose to the Saints.
Well, at least this time Rico Dowdle didn't get a pump celebration penalty.
Yeah.
You see that?
I missed that.
He scored the one touchdown because he did the Key and Peele thing last week against the Packers and got flagged for it. This time he did no pumps, so no flag this time.
Okay, good.
So he learned his lesson.
But
they fined him $20,000, I think.
Yeah, but the Panthers have not learned their lesson. So
no, yeah. Listen, the whole NFC South minus the Bucs who are playing good. They lost the Patriots yesterday in a really good game, but yeah, the rest of the NFC South is just dismal.
Yeah, just it's not looking good right now, the NFC South.
No, it is not. But there's your look at the NFL. And again, we'll do an NFL top 5, bottom 5 coming up a little bit later on the week. We'll jump back into what happened around college football coming up next in the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Your Reaction Monday rolls along here on the game.
What's going on, everyone? When it comes to HVAC replacements, AAA Heating and Air is the go-to name in the Midlands with guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. It's no wonder they're the best in the business. But wait, I've got more for you. Did you know AAA Heating and Air also offers incredible deals on repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're worried about the cost of it, they've got you covered. So AAA offers up to 12-month payment plans with no credit check for all repairs. Yep, homeowners just need a valid bank account and you're all set. Don't sweat it. Give AAA Heating and Air a call today at 803-677-1500. Again, that is 803-677-1500. Tell them that you heard about them on 107.5 The Game. To take advantage of these amazing deals, your comfort is just a call away.
11 o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris along with you. Coming off of the bye week, no Carolina football, but plenty of chaos happening around the college football world as we make our way through the final month of the regular season. How was the bye week, guys?
Good. Did y'all watch some ball?
Watched a lot of ball.
What was your favorite game?
Ooh. Honestly, as exciting as Indiana Penn State was, probably Oregon Iowa. Just an old school grind it out, Big Ten, kind of a Big Ten West kind of game, low scoring. And give credit to Oregon, man. They went on there and they out Iowa to Iowa.
It was low scoring, but both offenses turned it on at the end is what I loved about it. It was like they were both just kind of jabbing at each other, filling each other out, and then both sides went down and did what they needed to do. Man, that throw by Dante Moore was insane.
Little small window.
No, there was no window.
No window.
If the guy had just moved his arm accidentally, it's on the ground, just like 1 inch above where the guy's arm was outstretched at that given moment.
It's one of those things like I wish we still had sports science. Another guy passed away not all that long ago, but the percentage of that throw being successful had to have been minuscule, right? Because, again, one variable goes the other way, and it's knocked away, picked off, whatever it may be.
In the rain as well. And you don't have some of your best playmakers either. Like, that was a gutsy win for Oregon. Kudos to Iowa. Like, they were down for the battle. But, man, Oregon went in there and got in an Iowa-style fight.
Mm-hmm.
And not only survived, but won the game. And I got to say, man, Dan Lanning, like, there is a certain edge that he brings to his team. They don't really seem to panic in those late-game situations. Like, we've seen it the last couple of seasons. They're in just, hey, make a play or lose situations, and they make plays, man. I don't know. Oregon, I think they're kind of young this year still. That was a growing-up game right there. They're going to be pretty dangerous in the playoff if they keep winning, and they had to win that game.
They did.
Frankly, to have a great shot of making the playoff.
How heavy do we think Dan Lanning's cotton sweater was by the end of that game?
Well, you've seen why he does that.
He wants. I want to be in the trenches with the guys.
Be in the fight.
Want to be in the fight. I don't want any luxuries over here, which I can respect that. But that thing had to have weighed 30 pounds by the end of the game. It felt like
if he just came out in full gear, like a helmet, shoulder pads.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point, Wes. They definitely don't panic. I was sitting there like, guys, y'all are taking a little while here. Like they've got 3 timeouts.
Yeah.
They're just kind of.
And a kick in the rain's not guaranteed.
Right, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We got this. Atticus Sappington.
If I didn't know that was a football player,
that's a Key and Peele.
That might be a Key and Peele.
And it's a tragedy that there's not like a third or fourth on the end. It just seems right for Atticus Sappington the fourth.
That is a college professor. That's what that is. Like history professor, something like that.
Atticus Sappington.
Yeah, that whatever that guy's going to do, if football doesn't pan out for him, with that name, you got to be successful, right?
Yeah, but it was big, and that's what that went. We were talking about this after the Bama South Carolina game, right? It's a close game. You're down. Even in this age where there's so much parity, like the really, really good teams this year have been able to separate themselves because for the most part, when they've gotten in those situations, they're able to go down and make something happen and have that kind of championship drive. And that was an example, for Oregon. We saw it with Indiana. I mean, they're on the ropes on the road, to a team that has certainly been disappointing in Penn State. One of the biggest disappointments in the country, maybe the biggest, but still has talent on their team. They're down. Their backs are against the wall. They're going to make another play, like a low percentage play, given all the circumstances, given the pass rush, given the arm angle, given where the ball was, where the receiver was, where the defender was, low percentage. They made the play, and they won the game. And I think that was just, that's what big-time teams do.
If I were to high point a ball to either one of you in that same situation, could you have gotten your toe? If I give you 100 chances, could you have gotten your toe down the way that guy did?
No.
All right, here's the thing. I'm going to dare say anybody listening that says yes to that is a liar or just has a complete and entire misrepresentation in their head of what they are athletically capable of. That's one of the greatest sketches I've ever seen. The way he snatched the ball was like out of the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
The way he snatched it. Here's what I want to know. Did he purposefully lift the foot up that was about to hit and hit out of bounds and then put the other one down? Or was that somewhat of a just reaction, like almost happy accident? Or was he mentally processing, this foot can't go down, let me... You know what I'm saying?
I want to say you can't process things that fast to be able to make that decision, but maybe he could. I don't know.
It, man.
Athletes can.
Go watch the Miguel Rojas interview. I'm jumping all around, but that's the second baseman for the Dodgers who not only hit the game-tying home run, but made that play with the bases loaded, and how he stumbled.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes through, it's fascinating. Tells you everything that his mind is processing as that play. You go back and look at the play, and it's like, okay, this play happened in seconds. He is having a entire conversation in his head as this is all happening. And he actually thought he lost the game when he stumbled. See, his clock was telling him,
right,
there's not time to throw this guy out. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's like a mental thing or more just a physical, like, let me do everything I can. How deep did it go? I don't know. But regardless, I'd put out one of the most non-controversial tweets I've ever tweeted that was, given the moment, it's one of the best catches I've ever seen. And some guy that doesn't follow me, that I don't know who he is. I have no idea how he even found it. Told me that I was wrong and that there was a catch in the Super Bowl that was better.
Okay.
This past Super Bowl?
No, like all time.
Okay. Maybe Santonio
Super Bowl
Holmes.
IV.
Maybe like Santonio Holmes.
I think that was the one he was talking about. Yeah, but I was like, first of all, I said one of.
We can at least it's open.
Second of all, who are you?
Yeah, I mean, look,
go away.
The Santonio Holmes catch was amazing.
That was like the most social media thing ever. Like, can we just enjoy?
No.
Yeah. Well, no, your opinion is incorrect, Wes. That's the
Can
problem.
we just enjoy this moment?
Your opinion does not align with him, and you're wrong.
By the way, guys, do y'all know where Dante Moore is from?
We are really jumping around.
No, I'm bringing this back.
I do not.
I thought he was from. I have no idea. I thought he was from California.
He is not.
No clue.
Where's he from?
Any guesses?
No, California.
Is he from South Carolina?
No. And I'm gonna see if y'all can see where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Iowa.
He is from outside of Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
All right.
Who else is from that area?
LeBron James.
Yes, but
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Come on. Bring this home for me.
I don't know where you're going.
Yeah, where are you
I
going
don't call
with this?
him Big Meech. Meechy Johnson.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
What? I mean, speaking of closing out a game,
The closer.
what was that?
Wes, I think West coined the term the Meechy go-off game.
That was the Meechy
That was the Meechy go-off game
5
of all
minutes.
go-off games.
That was it.
What?
Insane.
I was sitting. I was there last night. Had really good seats, and so those threes that were. I was listening to Derek Scott after the game, and he kept describing it was like one was from like the O in Colonial Life, and one was from like the N. The second one I think was even deeper, and so that was kind of like right in front of me, and I was like, he really just shot that.
Yeah.
Twice, and they both went. I mean, it was insane.
When he's feeling himself, he's feeling himself.
Yeah,
And when
he
the
was
shots are
on
falling,
one.
they keep falling. And I thought Ray earlier on this morning made a good point. He's like, if you had Michi on the team last year, you probably win like 3 or 4 more of those games, especially the tight ones you had against some really good competition. That is the difference he can have. Now, he turned the ball over 5 times, which that's kind of the Michi Johnson experience, but like this dude is definitely injecting energy into this team this year that we didn't have at times last year.
Yeah, I had that same thought, man. What would this, if you just added him to the bunch last year, and who's going to take the ball with the game on the line? And I think even though he's a rookie, even though he's a freshman, I think Eli Ellis has some of those qualities too. Like I do think you have 2 guys. He hit some big free throws down the stretch. I think you have 2 guys now that you can kind of trust that are going to want the ball in that situation. You didn't necessarily have that last year, but man, the amazing part about it is that he turned that on. You know, like it was kind of like, all right, we've run out of time. This game is pretty much over. If I don't do something, we're taking an early, very bad loss.
Quad 4, like last year.
He just said, all right, I have to flip the switch. The ability to flip the switch, like it's one thing if you're just feeling yourself that day. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he had 3 early fouls. He didn't even get into a rhythm in this game. To do that, just the way he did it, and it was a career high, but a bunch of those points were in like the final 4 minutes of the game. So, I mean, you had a career high 33. 14 of those 33 were in the final 3:39 of regulation. Like that, I don't know what this basketball team's going to be, man. I really, nobody maybe does at this point. There were some things last night that will give you concern, but for them to go win it the way they did, at least, I mean, let's acknowledge that's different. Last year's team is not winning that game in this situation.
Right.
So, kudos to Michi. That's why you come back, I feel like, to South Carolina.
Yeah, and were there some things that were concerning last night, blowing a lead, some of the things defensively, the laps? Yeah, I mean, sure, but I think one difference that y'all were just talking about is you had Michi, and you were able to close out that game, whereas some of the years past, including last year, that's probably one you just look back on and say, man, that's a bad loss, blew a lead. I mean, they are relying on the 3. We know that, and that's going to help them win some games. It's probably going to contribute to them losing some games. They're going to be, I think, they do have guys that are capable on any given night. I think we're starting to get a sense of who could be the guys for this team. Michi's one. Eli Ellis, I thought, showed some really good things. Mike, he did some good things, had the late and one that was big, hit some threes, made some things happen. Miles Studi had the big shot late in the game. That was pretty cool, hearing Michi had told Lamont Paris through Derek Scott relayed this, that Miles had missed that same shot earlier, and Michi, told him, next one's going in, I'm looking for you, and it happened. So, I certainly think this team, do they have some limitations, maybe particularly defensively? Do they weren't able to get the ball inside? Like, yeah, there's some concerning things, but the way they play is fun. The energy. I mean, Lamont brought up even that Hayden Asimian, I mean, he was huge in the game, but didn't even attempt a shot, you know? And you look at that, they've got some interesting pieces on this team, and certainly think having Michi back, having a guy like Eli Ellis that can make things happen and is completely unafraid of the moment, or anybody else who's way bigger than him. Like, he's just that's something I think you like about this team.
Yeah, I don't know how good this team's going to be, but they're going to be very entertaining to watch as this season unfolds. We'll continue on with Reaction Monday, what went on around the country as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls on your Monday on the Game.
All right, when I talk to the guys over at Integrated Media, they hear a few common things from new customers, like, I didn't know that you sell TVs at the same price as the stores. That's right. They sell, deliver, and install new TVs without you having to go into a store. You guys install camera and alarm systems? Yep. Integrated Media sells and installs camera systems, video doorbells, video floodlights, and even monitored alarm systems to keep your family and your home safe. If your Wi-Fi is always going out, is slow, you didn't realize that the folks over at Integrated Media can fix that. They can do it for you, too. Today's world of streaming apps that can be very confusing, and even e-learning day for the kids, Integrated Media can be your one-stop shop for all of your technology needs. You don't have to waste time in a store or the thousands of different options on the internet. Call Integrated Media to get you up and running. 803-948-8327 or integratedmediainc.com, the best in tech for your home.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris with you on your Monday here on the game. Tomorrow, for Veterans Day, we're going to be broadcasting pretty much all day long out at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. You can join the early game from 6 until 9, the Extra Point and Gamecock Central Takeover Hour from 9 until 12, and then the halftime show from 12 until 3 out there all day long, broadcasting for the Veterans Day event they're having going on out there. So we hope to see a lot of you out there tomorrow. As we continue to review the weekend that was. You got an opportunity to do a little bit of advanced scouting on Carolina's next opponent, Texas A&M, as they went on the road to take on a Missouri team, down a quarterback, down to their third-string quarterback, actually, and Matt Zollers. We didn't think Missouri was probably going to win this game. I don't know if we saw the dominance that A&M put on them, though, as they reverse Fetty-Wap them 38-17, and didn't look like they had too many weak links in that game.
Reverse Fetty-Wap.
Did you come up with that? Did you steal that?
No, I've seen that around.
Oh, dang.
Because if the scoreboard reads 17-38, it's Fetty-Wap. So when it's the other way around, it's a reverse Fetty-Wap.
I mean,
how many of our listeners got that?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Maybe a lower.
I appreciated it.
Yeah, thank you.
Not throwing shade with that question. I very much appreciated it.
It was pretty dominant performance by A&M, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you just look, first of all, you look at the scoreboard, but then, there's a lot of talk about A&M's defense for good reason. You've got Cassius Howell, who is insane and really, really good, which is scary. Their defensive line, Wes, you wrote about this morning. Wow, shocker. They're really good up front.
Just plug in names, numbers, whatever.
Yeah, it's just same situation. Doesn't even matter the coach. They're just always going to have just studs up front, and that's the case, and they're really well coached. If y'all listen to Eli Drinkwitz after the game, he was asked by a reporter about some of the issues that Missouri had offensively, and he was a little bit smart aleck, like, do you want me to explain it? And he tried to go overboard and let me give you an explanation that most people aren't going to understand because it's just littered with all these football terms. But even listening to that, if you had a half understanding of it, you're like, man, Mike Elko is really good. What he does at calling defenses, just in terms of adjusting on the fly. If you adjust to what they're doing, they're able to almost immediately take it away. And then they're really, really talented too. But I feel like their offense is not getting enough love either, right? Marcel Reed, he continues to be super efficient, 20 of 29. They turned the ball over just once. They did lose the penalty battle, but they outgained them 464 to 284. They're 50%, offensively converting third downs. They had the fake punt. They beat them in time of possession, 35 minutes to 24 minutes. Like, it was just a thorough beating. And I know Missouri down to their third-string freshman quarterback, and he looked like it at times. But this is a pretty complete team, and that's why a lot of people think maybe they're the best in the country right now with the way they're playing.
Yeah, they, interestingly enough, statistically, their defense is not as good as their offense. And statistically, their defense actually isn't quite as good as you would expect it to be. However, in terms of rushing the passer and creating havoc, they are as good as anybody in the country, which is scary for any opponent. It is especially scary for South Carolina because we know how much just over the entire year they have struggled with, of course, the sacks. Now you're going to another difficult place to play. If you get behind the chains at A&M, the 12th man, et cetera, you've had all these sort of pre-snap issues. You go to a place where you're probably going to have a false start or two regardless, but you are a team this year that has just struggled with that. So, this is not – so Mike Ferry, going to be the primary play caller for the first time at South Carolina. Kind of a new look on offense potentially in terms of how you call it. It ain't an easy first game to go try to attack because if they're just dominating you up front, there's only so many things you can do to try to counteract that. So this could be a game. Maybe I'm wrong. Like A&M, from what I've gathered, this very, very early time, they've actually given up some things in the run game defensively.
Mizzou ran for like 200 yards.
And so if you look at their just raw, like what I just call traditional stats in the run game, take out the fact that they've got more sacks than anybody in the world. So their run numbers actually look even better defensively than what they actually are because they're getting more negative yardage factored in than anybody because for whatever reason college football factors sacks into the run game, which it shouldn't. So if you're going to beat them, you absolutely have to establish some semblance of a run game. Now, we said the same thing about the Ole Miss game. That was an Ole Miss defense that, has given up some ground yardage to a lot of teams. South Carolina just was not able to establish it. So, you kind of have to have the context of can South Carolina take advantage of that. But overall, guys, I think I'm actually just more impressed with the fact that they have so many ways to hurt you on offense. Marcel Reed playing very well. They've got good running backs. They've got a great receiver duo led by Casey Concepcion, former NC State wide receiver who was great there for a couple years. And, I think you look at the fact Marcel Reed is mostly hurting people through the air, but then he still has that athletic ability, the dynamic ability in the run game. If he has to rely on that, he will. So I don't know, man. Like they're just gonna be. It's gonna be another for I guess what you would say the third straight game for South Carolina. Another big test for the Gamecock defense.
Yeah, it's gonna be an uphill battle. We'll continue to dive more into A&M as the week goes along. Beamer will talk about them tomorrow for his usual weekly press conference at 1 o'clock, which of course you can listen to right here on the game. But you mentioned Mike Furry taking over as the OC for the final 3 games, or at least the play caller for the final 3 games of the regular season. You mentioned on Friday you were releasing your warm board for potential candidates for this job next year. We'll dive into that coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Monday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, along with you here on your Reaction Monday on the game. And last week on Reaction Monday, we spent most of the time not really talking about South Carolina's loss to Ole Miss per se, but more about the decision to move on from offensive coordinator Mike Shula. And, of course, we learned at the end of last week that Mike Furry will be doing the play calling for the rest of the year. And the interesting thing is when you fire a coach during the season, it's kind of a delay until you actually get into the meat of the coaching search because, of course, you still got some games to play and to finish out your season before you really get into who's coming in, who they're talking to, and all those kind of things. But we're all kind of starved to know who this is going to be, who's going to take this role as the OC for what we've positioned as the most important hire of Shane Beamer's tenure. And Wes, as we talked about a little bit on Friday, you put out what you're calling your warm board, not the hot board, not saying these are definite candidates. They're going to come in and interview, so don't start tracking flight aware yet. But guys that would make sense if Carolina started looking at them as potential candidates for the offensive coordinator opening.
Yeah, enjoyed going into this and enjoyed seeing some of the reaction. I think some people still have not read the disclaimer. We're just talking ball here. Like, this is, like, they're, unless it's just something where there's some connection and Beamer has a relationship and he's just, you know, it's somebody he knows well enough to call up and be like, I'm calling you after the season to make this official. Like, there's no information, at least that we've gathered yet, to point to, hey, these are 5 guys to watch. This is very literally, let's dive into some guys that would make sense so that, maybe one of these names does end up being the guy, or maybe they end up being on the list. And now we have some background on, about them already, essentially. So there's some guys on here. I'm actually already diving in on trying to figure out the next 5 or so guys that we're going to go into. A few guys that we talked about on the quote-unquote warm board: Pitt OC Cade Bell, Cincinnati OC Brad Glenn, Baylor OC Jake Spavital, Duke OC Jonathan Brewer, Florida State OC, I know many probably watched on Saturday. Not the best example of the Gus Malzahn offense, although if Florida State could catch.
Yeah, he can't catch it for him, too.
Might have been a little different. And then, of course, Mike Furry on there as well as South Carolina's current play caller. So, do y'all want to talk about any guys in particular? Or?
Well, is there anybody that stands out of this just first couple of guys that you put on there that you like the most or makes more sense than the others? Because, again, there's – and I like how you lay it out, reasons why it could happen, reasons why it may not happen. So you can make arguments both ways on these guys. Anybody that kind of stands out of the group?
Well, here was kind of – cop-out answer, but here was what kind of stood out to me going through this. All of these guys are successful at putting together offenses, and many of them do it in completely different ways than the other guys on this list. And so as I was going through, it's like, well, this guy, they have a diverse run game. They stay ahead of the chains. They're efficient. Maybe the passing game is not an afterthought, but it's a little bit more secondary. I think you look at Brad Glenn, and that's a name that's already been kind of talked about a bit. He's at Cincinnati, and was with Sean Elliott as his OC at Georgia State. And if you're talking about, especially if Lenora Sellers is back and he is your quarterback, and you're talking about who can put together a run game, who can be very efficient in everything you do, then I think he does make a lot of sense. He's from Seneca, South Carolina. He is a Clemson grad. Highly, I would say, experienced guy in terms of calling plays. Now, that is a big question right there when you are with an offensive-oriented coach currently. Who is calling the plays at Cincy, and how involved is your head coach? When you have a guy like Satterfield who is an offensive-minded guy. So, now, the thing that stood out to me about him, I like to look at success rate, which is just quite really simply is like the way to measure your down-to-down success as an offense. And his success rate, as of last week, nationally ranked 6th. Now, a lot of times whenever you're that means you're super efficient. Whenever you're super efficient, that maybe means you're not as explosive, right? Well, that offense is 41st in explosiveness as well. And so that means you're still pretty explosive to also be 6th best in efficiency. Points per opportunity, and let me give some credit. Fourthandshort.com is where I got a lot of my analytics stuff from. Points per opportunity, that is basically how many points do you get on average when you go inside the 40. So I've been looking at this from a mindset of what things has South Carolina not done well? Not just this year, but what did Beamer talk about? We haven't been good enough on offense the last few years. Points per opportunity inside the 40, 4.88. That means nothing to you, but what does mean something is that is 8th in the country. So I'll be curious to see what Beamer really prioritizes. Now, if he still wants to go the direction of the passing game and being a little bit more complex and developing your quarterback in the passing game, you know, a guy that Chris has written about too, Cade Bell, he would be more along the lines of someone you'd be looking for to, we want to develop our quarterback. You know, maybe not necessarily like pro style, like don't let that scare you type thing, but his offense heavily based on success in the passing game. They're 9th nationally, 2nd in the ACC in pass yards per game as of last week. Not the most efficient offense. They're 83rd in success rate nationally, but you look at their explosiveness, they're 11th in the country. So this would be more of a, we still want to throw the ball. We want to kind of bring along that part of our quarterback. So I think very interesting when you kind of dive into these things. Once we get an idea for what is Beamer looking for, is it just I want the best OC possible, or is it I want the best OC possible that can do these particular things, that can specifically fix these parts of the offense? Real quick, I want to get Chris's thoughts. Cade Bell, not a very run-oriented offense at all. However, Pitt, where he's at, they're actually number 22 in the country in converting short yardage situations in the run game. So that's 3rd and 2 or less, 4th and 2 or less. So they don't really run the ball a lot. But that's one thing I think we can all agree South Carolina has needed to improve, is that ability to run the ball when the opponent knows you're going to run the ball. So that actually could be a pretty big positive for Bell's offense as well.
Maybe another guy that could go on the warm board. Don't know if he'll go on a hot board yet. Don't know if he's involved or will be involved. Jason Beck from Utah. Interesting name. One reason why. Here's what first put him on the radar as a guy to think about, because there's really good results. Lenore Sellers committed to Jason Beck twice. Once when he was at Virginia, where Lenore's was first committed. Then when he moved to Syracuse, committed to him there. Obviously, Lenore Sellers ended up coming to South Carolina. Beck ended up going to New Mexico and then served as the OC there. Then went to Utah. Kyle Whittingham, longtime, really good coach at Utah, gave him the keys to the offense. Young guy, he's 45. He also is inexperienced as a play caller overall. He's typically just been an offensive assistant or a quarterback's coach. That's what he was at Virginia. He was only the OC at Syracuse for 1 year. But the past couple years at New Mexico and now at Utah have been really good. Utah was really bad offensively last year. They're 5-7. They're 102nd nationally in scoring offense. This year, they're in the top 10 scoring offense. He brought his quarterback, Devin Dampier, with him, of course, as we all know.
Yep.
They're in the top 10 in rushing offense. They're in the top 10 at sacks allowed in a positive way. They allow less than 1 sack a game. They're in the top 16 in tackles for loss allowed. Number 1, by the way, Texas A&M, who South Carolina plays next. So he also checks a lot of those boxes, right? We do. Shane Beamer might end up changing from this philosophy, but the sense I get is Shane Beamer has not been someone who's like, let's run the air raid. I mean, do y'all agree with that? Like, it kind of seems that way. It seems like, now, philosophically, he might say, you know what, I need to scratch that. But if he wants to stick with somebody who can run the ball effectively, because he's talked about that so much, and it is true. You have to be able to run the ball to win. I think in this league in the SEC, like that's an intriguing guy, and there's some ties. Now, will he end up not being involved because at the end of the day, maybe you want somebody with more than 3 years of play calling experience for a hire that's so big? Maybe so.
Sure.
But I think just from a stylistic standpoint, what he's done to turn that offense around, and he is the guy. Like, we know that. He's the one that has turned it around there. He has full control of the offense. And as someone that Lenore Sellers is familiar with, maybe it makes sense. Again, we don't know that he's involved, but would make sense if we end up hearing that he is.
That begs another question for me that we'll get to on the other side of how Biederman's going to go about this and deciding who his candidates and ultimately his offensive coordinator are going to be. We'll hit that coming up as we wrap up the hour. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, and your reaction Monday on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris along with you here on your Monday, wrapping up the hour and talking about Wes's warm board that he put on Gamecock Central that you can go read of potential candidates. Doesn't mean these guys are definitely candidates, but potential candidates based on where they're at, ties, and those kind of things to potentially being the one to fill the South Carolina offensive coordinator job. And we were talking at the end of that last segment about the philosophy that Beamer has on offense, and if he was going to maybe stray away from that with whoever he's going to hire. I think you also have to ask the question, because there's a pattern when it comes to his hiring process of guys with NFL experience. Again, Marcus Satterfield was with the Panthers when he got hired here. Of course, Dow Loggins spent his entire career up to being at Arkansas in the NFL. Mike Shula, most of his career has been spent in the NFL, and I don't know if we have a specific reason why he values NFL guys so much, but that is a pattern when it comes to hiring as offensive coordinators. Is that something we have to factor into this search as well?
Good question. I don't know if we know an answer. I think if you're Beamer, you certainly aren't going to attach yourself just to NFL ties this time, I think, right? Like, I feel like that's safe to say. I haven't been told that, but I just feel like that's probably safe to say. He said himself, hey, offense has not been good enough, need to fix it. So, I wonder if you take a little bit different approach this time. And I will say this, I think the pro style thing maybe gets overused a little bit. You can be successful with a quote unquote pro style offense because really pro style can mean a lot of different things. I think that the one factor to me, the one aspect that I think Carolina would probably do well to get away from a little bit is, I think they just need to kind of simplify and get more towards what I call a system. And here's the thing about a system. Yeah, like you can mold it to your talent, but you kind of have something where you say, like I remember when Satterfield came in, I mean, we were hearing stories about him like putting together the playbook. Like literally like, hey, here's the plays I like. Let me put this thing together. And then coming out of spring ball, you were hearing like, based on what we did well, what we didn't do well, we're going to keep putting this thing together. I really like the idea, regardless of where they're from, of bringing in someone who kind of has a playbook. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah, you're going to add, you're going to subtract, you're going to tweak, but there's a base of kind of what you want to be here. The other factor of that I think helps with recruiting, because you're not just recruiting, oh, let me get the best players I can get. You're recruiting, let me get the best players I can get that fit what I want to be offensively in this scheme.
Yeah, and a lot of the, if you're a school that can cycle in and out offensive coordinators because you're just so talented, like in Ohio State, right?
Sure.
Like there's schools that can do that offensively or defensively, but Tennessee's a great example, right? They middled for years, and I know people in Knoxville not super happy right now because they had higher expectations. But one thing that you cannot argue is that Tennessee has been playing some very good offensive football in the Josh Heupel era. Why? Well, they brought a system that does some very specific things. They're going to play with tempo. They're going to spread you out. Everybody thinks of the past, but like you pointed out this the other day, Wes, like people forget Tennessee runs the football. Like that is a big part of it. So they have a system that they run, and there's a lot of success in it because you can plug in different quarterbacks. Yes, you can mold it to the talent that you have at receiver or at quarterback, but it's a very quarterback-friendly offense, So if you're Shane Beamer, are you thinking about, but maybe more than you have in the past, let's find a guy who has a true system. And you can have, it doesn't have to be one type of system versus another. I don't think he's going to hire Paul Johnson to run the Georgia Tech, Navy triple option. I don't foresee that. But you can have success with different types of systems. So the question is, which one's going to fit next year's team the best? And I think you think about Lenore Sellers a lot within that. Is it a guy whose system can mold to talent, based on, year to year? Has he shown he can do that? And I think what you said earlier, Wes, is it a guy that can really help you get better and elevate some of the areas that you've really struggled in consistently, regardless of coordinator, over the last few years.
Well, and I think you also have to factor in, again, Beamer's admitted, rightfully so, when you fire offensive coordinator, the offense has not been good enough, but he's willing to change his philosophy on what he looks for and what kind of system those guys bring in, what kind of offenses they run. Are you going to go radically outside the box, or are you going to keep going down the same path of the types of hires that you've made, the types of offenses they've been running, with thinking, okay, this is going to be the guy that's going to get me where we need to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways, whoever you bring in, it's got to be quarterback friendly and it's got to be O-line friendly, man. And I know those are just words, but some schemes make things a little bit easier on the QB and make things a little bit easier on the offensive line. Some schemes put quite an onus on those guys. And here's what I find. When you have the schemes where it's a little bit tougher on the O-line, but you can bring in the top-notch guys and develop them, and then they are able to execute it. When you have the schemes that are a little bit more complicated on the quarterback, those schemes have answers for everything. Like those schemes, when they're operating at a high level, are very, very difficult to stop. But in the transfer portal era, I feel like it's probably harder and harder to put those together. But just look at how much better over the years South Carolina's offenses have been under Beamer late in the year versus early in the year. But unfortunately, in this era, you maybe just don't have that luxury. So I think something that's a little bit more just player-friendly in terms of like plug and play. I mean, Heupel plugged in a quarterback who wasn't here for the spring at all, and I think he's leading the SEC in passing.
Yep. Plenty more conversation coming away from this as we continue to find out who Carolina's next offensive coordinator will be. Halftime show, myself and Bill Gunner coming up next as your Reaction Monday rolls along here on the game.